Hello, fifth graders. Welcome to lesson 7-8, Add Mixed Numbers. Please write down your lesson title and your I can statement. I can add mixed numbers to equivalent fractions and find a common denominator. Let's go ahead and pause and write down your lesson title and I can statement, and then press play when you're ready to move on. For our problem today, it says Joaquin used 2 types of flour in a muffin recipe. How much flour did he use in all? Solve any way you choose. Well, again, we're going to start with our kind of problem-solving structure when we're looking at a word problem of using cubes. So we're given a recipe to make muffins. And we have lots of fractions in this recipe, but we are really only concerned with the types of flour. So I want to know about this 1½ cups of whole wheat flour and 1 2/3 cups of buckwheat flour. Those are the only types of flour that I see. What we're finding out is how much flour did he use in all. So I need to know that flour is important because that's what I'm looking at. And I need to know how much in all. And this is a problem that a lot of us do when we're doing cooking type things. We've got to figure out how much we need of a certain type of ingredient. So when we evaluate and visualize this problem, I put myself into that problem and I think about I need to know if I have enough flour to make this basic muffin recipe, and I need 1½ cups of whole wheat flour and 1 2/3 cups of buckwheat flour, and I'm trying to find out how much flour there is in all. So you may solve this problem any way you choose. Please make sure you show all of your work in your journal. Please press pause at this time, work the problem out, and then press play when you're ready to go through it together. All right, now that you've worked your problem, let's go through and talk about what strategy we would use. Since it's asking how much flour did he use in all, I realize that this is an addition problem with fractions and actually with mixed numbers. So the problem that we're going to work is 1 1/2 cups of flour, and then we're adding that with 1 2/3 cups of flour. Well, the first thing I notice is that I do not have a common denominator, and I need to do that before I can move forward with this problem. So I like to think about that by finding my least common multiple to be my common denominator. So I'm going to list out some multiples of 2 and multiples of 3. Multiples of 2 are 2, 4, 6, 8, and I could go on and on. I'm going to stop there. Multiples of 3 are 3, 6, 9, and 12. And when I'm looking for least common multiple, I'm looking for the number that they both share that's the smallest. And in this case, that is the number 6. So that will become my new denominator. So then I think about, well, what did I need to do to the 3 to make it into a 6? I had to multiply that by 2. Whatever I do to my denominator, I must also do to my numerator, so I have to multiply that by 2. So then I've created an equivalent fraction of 1 4/6. That's the same amount. It's equivalent to 1 2/3, but now I have it in a form where I'm going to be able to add. Now I do the same thing to my 1 1/2. I have to think about, well, what did I do to the 2 to make it into a 6? I multiplied that by 3. I have to do the same to my numerator. I will multiply that by 3. And I created another equivalent fraction. 1 1/2 is equivalent to 1 3/6. So now I have my fractions in a format where I can actually add them. So I'm going to add my whole numbers together. And I'm going to add my numerators, which is going to be 7. And the denominator stays the same. So I have a mixed number that is 2 7/6. But I realize my numerator is larger than my denominator. So I have to do a little bit of work to get this in its simplest form. I know that 6/6 is equal to 1 whole. So if I think about taking 6/6 away from the 7/6, this can become 1 1/6. Now, for this problem, I could just think about that. There's also, like, if you like to have a structure and a strategy to figure that out, I could divide my numerator 5 at the denominator. 6 goes into 7 one whole time. Make one group of 6. I'll subtract, and that gives me a remainder of 1. And I can show that remainder as the remainder of 1/6. So I've just converted this improper fraction of 7/6 into a mixed number of 1 and 1/6. But when I do this, I'm not done. I have to think about my whole number I had of 2. Can't forget those 2 whole cups of flour that I already had. So now I'm going to add 2 plus 1, which will give me 3, and then my fraction of 1/6. So the total amount of all flour that I need for this recipe is 3 and 1/6 cups of flour. Let's take a look at a couple other strategies of how to work this problem. For Richie, he did something very similar in his work. He drew out fraction strips, so he had that visual representation in addition to writing out the mixed numbers and adding them in a similar way that we did. And he also got 3 and 1/6 cups, so he was correct. Carla, she looked at just kind of breaking this problem apart. She worked with just the fraction portion of the cups of flour and got 7/6 just like we did, and then converted that improper fraction into a mixed number. And then she just added the whole parts of flour, which were those full cups, and then she put both parts together at the end, and she also got 3 and 1/6 cups of flour. At this time, you need to write our secret word at the top of your paper, and that secret word is the word joy. So please write the word joy next to your lesson title at the top of your paper. Now at this time, we need for you to summarize your thinking and your work in your journal. So please write out the steps that you took to solve this problem in detail. Talk about your thinking so that when you share it with your partner today, they can really understand your thinking and your strategy for solving this problem.